We are live. We are live. We are live. Welcome everybody to the X-Files Retro Review.
Good
How are
evening.
you? Today we'll be looking at episodes 13 through 17 of season 6 of the X-Files, which was a very entertaining season for me, despite some issues as far as the tone changing and everything. Super entertaining season. And tonight we'll be looking at Aguamala and Monday in Arcadia and Alpha, and we're gonna close it out with Trevor. Okay, so that's gonna be on the docket tonight. Only 5 episodes because we went 6-6 last couple weeks. So that's it, guys. Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for giving us our views. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. After we're done with the X Files, when we finish, which will be still a little while ahead, we'll be looking at Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So I'm looking forward to that. But right now, we are knees deep in some X Files. Okay, so we're going to begin with an episode called. Oh, before we do that, look at that, Pete. Almost forgot.
Yes.
Our girl, Gillian, looking gorgeous, as usual.
Yeah, it's wow, that's recent, eh? Because she was playing Margaret Thatcher.
Oh yeah, they definitely uglied her up for that role. It's kind of
Yeah.
what's her name? The South African actress, Catherine. No, Theon. What's her name? The girl from Mad Max Fury Road. Charlie's the
Um,
Charlie's.
Clarice Theron.
Yes, like how she did with Monster. Remember?
Right.
Unrecognizable. And she won an Oscar for that. So there's a tip. You want to win awards, you got to do that body transformation. That's award fodder. Very easy award fodder. But that's not taking any away from Gillian Anderson, which is a really great actress. And for me, when I got older, became the MVP of the X Files. I mean, when I was younger, I was all about Mulder, 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 and I left the show when Mulder left the show. But then on my first rewatch, I was like, shit, Scully's actually the one that's got a lot more range as a character, doing whole lot more. Even if the writers do screw her on many occasions, and feeling the same way on this third rewatch, I guess now of the X Files, that Jillian just really lifts most of the scenes up just by her presence. So that's her. That's her. That's our girl. Second Emmy win. And she was nominated a bunch of times, right? For the X Files. I think she was nominated
Yes.
like 2 or 3 times. So there we go. But let's get to it, though. We got ourselves Aguamala. Okay. And this episode here, guys, it premiered on February 21st, 1999. It premiered to 16.91 million viewers, has a 6.6 rating on IMDb, written by David Amen and directed by him too. And while stranded in the middle of a hurricane in Florida, Mulder and Scully seek shelter in an apartment building, not knowing that a tentacled monster is terrorizing the residents. What another wacky episode. More of what Pete was saying a couple weeks back, where it seems like they just said, fuck it. Let's just do whatever we want. We made a bunch of money with the movie. Show was supposed to be over. It's not, so here we go. It's whatever. So, Pete, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about this one. To be honest, I was kind of drunk when I watched it, so I haven't retained a lot of it, but I remember really not liking it. The big thing about this is we get Darren McGavin back as the original founder of the X Files.
That's Mr.
Um,
Dale.
yes, Arthur Dales. He's living in Florida, retired, and kind of a drunk. And he's got this little problem in his apartment building where somebody has been attacked by, I think, tentacles came out of the washing machine or something like that, if I
Yes,
recall
that was the
correctly.
opening little scene with the kid and the mom.
Yeah, so he gets Mulder and Scully down there to look into it, and they basically see like, man, this guy's just a drunk, and they're gonna get out of there. Except they get caught in a hurricane. Their plane can't take off, so they wind up holding up in this building. And indeed, there is a tentacled monster whacking all the residents. One thing I kind of liked about it is it kind of had the making fun of Florida vibe to it,
Yeah.
because all of these residents were a bit stereotyped. You had like your white trashy pregnant chick. You had the super right wing conspiracy crazed gun nut. You had like the retirees. So it did kind of poke fun of Florida. But the thing is, the whole episode was really poorly lit and really poorly edited, which was apparently done on purpose because they didn't really know. I mean, from the beginning, they actually wanted it to be a monster. The script evolved in so many different ways. Apparently, it was originally supposed to be in a gold mine, but they didn't go for that idea. So they switched it to an apartment complex and made it a water monster. And then this is where it was really just too ridiculous for me. The kicker is, it turns out there is not a water monster. The water is the monster. Toilet water is the monster of the week this week. Literally, there's a scene where the pregnant chick gets attacked by the toilet water while she's sitting on the can, hence the name Aguamala, bad water. And yeah, that was just a little too dumb. Eventually, they beat the water by with Epsom salts. They find out one of the characters, the burglar, accidentally knocks some Epsom salts on it, and it goes away. And Scully figures out, aha, fresh water is the key, and hence this is how they beat the evil water with good water.
Yeah, but I
So
think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, just like a silly ass, forgettable episode that's dark, poorly lit, and doesn't even really have enough humor to make you enjoy the silliness.
Yeah, I'm of the opposite opinion. I actually dig this episode. I have fun with it. I remember this one from first run and then the rewatch. For a lot of the reasons that you said, I love the stereotyping of all the characters. It's the usual bad X Files writing when it comes to anyone who isn't like a white dude or a white chick, but they were funny enough, you know, or just who live in that Washington bubble with Mulder and Scully. So they go to a place, and of course they're gonna just give you the most stereotyped versions of that place, whether it's Texas, whether it's Ohio, and now Florida. So I dug it because of that. I thought it was pretty funny. But I think I disagree with you that it's the water that's bad. There's an actual creature, and it's the bad water that's driving the creature, like with the hurricane. And Mulder even hypothesizes that because he says, okay, maybe it's the bad water that's drawing this creature in from the source, kind of like the flute man, I guess. Uh,
Yeah,
he was drawn in by the water that's constantly bad in New Jersey. There's no cure for that water. So there was a creature because it attacked Mulder. You can see the welts. It's got tentacles, and there's the scene where the water's coming in through this light shade, whatever, like this shade up on the ceiling, and you can see clearly. You can see tentacles there. So there's definitely a creature, but it's being drawn in because the water's bad. So then, what keeps the creature at bay is the clean water. So, um, kind of last minute solution. Scully kind of just has a bright idea to like, hey, let's put some.
while she's delivering a baby too.
Yes, that's what I kind of dug about it. It's like so much. It's not. I mean, the monster, even if it is a tentacled monster, if it's just the water that's bad, it is kind of like a weak monster. But I don't think the episode's focus was so much the monster, but just these crazy characters. And like, just let's just put a bunch of nutty people together in a room and see what happens. And I thought they were entertaining enough. I like some of the lines. I got to pee so bad that my back teeth are swimming. Um, my bladder is pressing against your unborn child, Walter. He's gonna have the head like a tortilla. Remember the pregnant lady? She's trying to give
Yeah.
birth. That's always funny too when you get, a pregnant woman and then they're not treating it like a dramatic pregnant woman situation, but a funny pregnant woman situation. And if that's done right, that's always fun.
Yeah.
And I dug the opening sequence with the kid and the mom. It's always cool when they off kids. It's usually taboo. Nowadays you see a lot more, but back in the 90s, although this is 1999, but not something you see all the time. But the X Files didn't give a shit because they killed a couple kids in their movie. So they're definitely not against it. And I dug seeing Dale again, and I dug the fact that he accepted Scully. And again, what I see is like the arc of all moving through season 6 is we had the almost kiss in the movie. The fans already know what's up. So we're building this relationship between Mulder and Scully and also building up Scully becoming a believer, because she's got to carry the show in season 8. And the fact that Dale kind of gave his blessings, because at first he didn't really like her. He's like, who's this lady? Who's this girl that came with you? But by the end of the episode, when they explain what happened, he says, I don't, I wish I wouldn't have retired if I had a partner that was, as good as yours, or, something to that effect. So that was really cool that she got the blessings of the man who started it all. And speaking of Dale, I finally got around to watching an episode of Kojak. I
Oh
think I
yeah.
fell asleep though, but I watched about half of it. It was kind of cool. I think there's an episode on YouTube that somebody posted it in one of the groups. I clicked on it, but I fell asleep watching that. I got to go back. But I dug the style of it. It's very nitty gritty type. Feels like something from the 70s. Like what was that show my mom used to like with the bald headed detective? Was it Kojak?
Kojak, yeah, with Telly
Yeah, just
Savalas.
nitty gritty type crime shows where not a lot of pleasantries and flowery shit. Like, let's just get to the meat of this story. And I dug that style. It's very different than what I expected. I thought it'd be a lot gloomier and X-File ish, but it's actually not. It works like a straight up crime drama. He's a reporter though, not a police officer. Except that you have a bit of a supernatural element in it. But I dug this one. I go against Pete on this one, which has been a while since we disagreed on an episode like that. So I had a lot of fun with Agua Mala. And then let's move ahead, guys. And as always, let us know what you think of these episodes. I know there's folks out there watching, but you're all afraid to comment. Comment down below. We definitely want to hear from you. So now we got Monday, okay? And I'll give you a little bit of, before I get into it, let's see. February 28th, 1999, 16.74 million viewers, written by Vince Gillian, John Chabon, so nice duo there. Directed by Kim Manners, and it's got a 9.0 rating on IMDb. A woman is trapped in an endlessly repeating time loop that ends in a tragic bombing in which Mulder and Scully lose their lives every time. Now, I tell you, when I saw this one, I knew it was coming. And then and I saw it, oh, this is the fucking time loop episode. And I don't know about you, Pete, but when I see that we're getting a time loop episode, regardless of the series, I have a rejection to these episodes because it's so tiresome for me to have to rewatch stuff. But when they're done well, it can actually be really cool. I mean, one of the famous ones is Star Trek The Next Generation's Cause and Effect. And every time I'm like, oh, God, I got to watch. Because usually before the stuff gets interesting, you have to basically rewatch the same scenes twice, with like a minor little change. And then after the third time, you see a little thing different. And the fourth time, before everything starts really clicking in, and it's just frustrating for me. So I went in with a bad mood when I saw Monday was coming in. And basically, what happens is, Mulder wakes up and he's got that waterbed, from
The
Dreamland.
waterbed is back.
Yes, and because this waterbed leaks, it creates a chain of event which involve him being late to a meeting, which means he's got to go to a bank to, get some stuff done over there. I forgot if you have to
He's
deposit
got to
something.
catch his paycheck.
He's got to cash his paycheck. Oh, they get paid. We forgot about that. And he walks in, um, and there's a guy that's holding up the bank. And the whole chain of events leads to Mulder getting shot every time. Um, but he starts to, for whatever reason, he starts to notice that, hey, it's like Groundhog Day, like something's going on here, I'm kind of reliving this thing, because the girlfriend of the guy that's in the bank, she knows it. She's
She
definitely
knows
aware
everything.
that shit. I have been living this loop for a very long time, and she catches his attention and says, "I have seen you walk by here like 100 times, and every time you get shot, don't go in there." Um,
And she knows Mulder and Skinner by name as well.
yes, yes, um, and that's it. I mean, there's not much to it, guys. It just repeats and repeats and repeats. There's a one time where I believe Scully, I think, even jumps in front of Mulder to catch the bullet for him. Um, but in the end, the guy's got the bomb. So that's that's what the final thing is. He can't get away from this until well, I don't want to spoil it. They get out of the loop at the end, and it has to do with the girlfriend. Oh no! Actually, I did spoil it. It's not Scully that jumps in front of the bullet. It's the girl that jumps in front of the bullet to save Mulder from getting shot, which makes the boyfriend go, "Oh shit! What did I do?" And he doesn't um, bomb everything. So my review of this one, again, I said good loop episode, but I always get angina before them because and not even movies that I like, I watch again. Pete knows this. Like, there's those movies that are like just easy to watch, like Star Trek movies that I watch like a million times. But a movie that I will absolutely love, and I'll be like, this is a masterpiece. I won't watch it again for like 10, 20 years. Like, I'm just not somebody that likes to watch movies again. So if I have an episode where I have to watch the same scenes over and over, at least 5, 6 times, before it starts to get to the meat of it, it just feels burdensome. But then I'm happy at the end. Now this episode is, like we said, similar to Groundhog Day, Run Lola Run, which is a cute little um, movie, um, and that Star Trek episode, which is considered a classic one, Cause and Effect, Star Trek: The Next Generation. So it all traces to the variations of a single repeated bad day until somebody notices it and they said, okay, this is how you break out of it. And yeah, and Mulder does have the worst day ever, so it's nice that they call it a Monday. Like, I hate Mondays. Although,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Pete, there's a few times there where they should have just shot the dude, in the second version. Just take that chance. You see this guy's there, he looks dangerous, just shoot the motherfucker. So
Yeah, the
it's,
problem is Mulder doesn't know for sure because, for as far as he's concerned, it's like the first time. By the time, like he's aware of what's going on, like he
yeah,
does try and shoot him. He does try and shoot him, but the things that's where things start to go wrong.
yeah. But all right. All right, but a decent episode though. I dug it. In the end, I dug it. But it's not one that I would go back to, only because I have this bad feeling about these time loop things. I just don't have the patience for it. But what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I really like this episode. First of all, the fact that they actually acknowledge the waterbed, and how strange it is that he has it, because he has to explain to Scully why he's late. And he's like, my waterbed sprung a leak. And she's like, when did you get a waterbed? Which totally flashes back to the fact that their memories of the body switch with Morris Fletcher had been erased. Everything went back to the way it was as far as they're concerned, but all the physical evidence of the body swap are still there. So he's got this legacy of Fletcher living his life in his apartment, which is the waterbed, which winds up killing him. So, I mean, that's just Mulder luck for you right there.
I know, he's seriously having the worst day ever.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, then he's got to go to the bank to cash his paycheck, where he runs into old Bernard, who is another pretty cool guest star. Um, Another show of this era that I really liked was Northern Exposure.
Mm.
And yeah, the guy who plays Bernard, the guy with the bomb, played the character of Ed in Northern Exposure. The actor's name was Darren E. Burroughs. And yeah, he's one of those actors that just has like a certain signature way of speaking, making facial expressions. And his
Mm.
character in Northern Exposure is so nice, but in this one, like, you get the impression that at heart he's not a bad guy, but he's a real dumbass. Like, why is he doing this? Is there some like desperate, does he have to pay for a cancer operation? Does he have to pay off a ransom? No, he's just a lazy shithead who doesn't want to work. And he's stupid enough to think he's going to get away with robbing a bank, and he and his girlfriend are going to go live happily ever after. And it makes you wonder what his girlfriend is doing with him, because she like tries to talk him out of it from the beginning, can't be done, and then he gets himself blown up, and she winds up in this time loop. And I don't know if at this point she's trying to save him, or if she's just trying to save the people in the bank, or if she just wants out of the hell that is living this day over and over again. But she seems like a real good girl who just has lousy taste in men.
Mm.
And, she does her best. The thing with time loop episodes, I think, if there's anything about them I don't like, it's not the repetitiveness. I like the repetitiveness because you can see, like, it's like a maze. You can see the subtle things they have to tweak to get out of it. It's not unlike being stuck in a video game. It is repetitive. You're going through
Mm.
the same shit, but you got to find out what you got to do different. And yeah, the one thing that I don't like about time loop episodes is that they're invariably tied to concepts of fate and everyone has a destiny, and
Mm.
the whole theme of this episode Monday is that things didn't go the way they were supposed to. Things need to happen a certain way. It does raise philosophical questions about free will. Like, there's a great quote where Scully says something about free will. She says something to the effect, "We're free to be the people that we are, good, bad, or indifferent. I think it's our character that determines our fate." And Mulder says, "And all the rest is preordained. There's too many variables, too many forks in the road." And yet, in this case, all his forks lead to him being blown up in a bank, but the variable that changes it has nothing to do with him. So, in fact, the episode does kind of endorse the concept of fate and that everyone is meant for a destiny, which I think is kind of a cop out, but okay. I enjoyed the rest of the episode.
No, I get you. It does bring up a lot of philosophical shit that it's difficult to explain, and even just oh, even for me, the idea of getting stuck in a time loop is just a bullshit concept. I mean, I guess in Star Trek you can kind of make a case for it because they're up against spatial anomalies all the time, and you know the bending of space time and things like that. So I can
Right.
deal with it if it's Star Trek, if it's maybe Doctor Who. but I mean, there's nothing here that explains like what triggered a time loop for this guy. Because although the X Files is considered a sci-fi show by a lot of folks, it's not classic sci-fi in the sense of kind of like what the shows I just mentioned: Star Trek, Stargate, Quantum Leap, which is very much grounded in this idea of we're going to use science to deal, and then just kind of bend those rules of science a little bit to get the fiction in there. The X Files, okay, there's scientific shit going on because Scully's a doctor, but it's supernatural more than traditional sci-fi. So there's no reasonable explanation for me as to why they would get stuck in this time loop. So that stuff is what frustrates me too about whenever we get into a time loop scenario. But if it's done well, like Groundhog Day is a great little movie. It's not like my favorite movie ever, but I've watched it a couple times and it's okay. Actually, I've watched it once. Now, I'll say this, Pete. Continuing on the trend of season 6, beautifully shot, really nice.
And
That
a big ass explosion too.
yeah, big ass explosion at the bank. A lot of the panning shots and um, just a lot of good stuff as far as the filming goes. So I give it props. Not my favorite episode of the season, but certainly one worth watching. And I definitely forgot to change my little slide there. See, Monday. I'll have to get my partner out of here. Yeah, there's the nice explosion right there. Now let's move ahead to a fan favorite, actually. It's the Separate Wives episode. Let's call it that one. And it's Arcadia. It originally aired on March 7th, 1999 to 17.91 million viewers. Written by Daniel Arkin, directed by Michael Watkins, and it's got an 8.7 rating on IMDb. Mulder and Scully go undercover as a married couple, so building on that theme again, in a gated community to investigate the mysterious disappearances of neighbors who didn't conform. All right, it's on you, brother.
No, I think this one's on. Oh, it is on me. Yes. All right. So yes, Arcadia. This is a complete satire of gated communities and their, shall you say, sterility. So the episode begins with this nice little gated community called Arcadia. All the houses look alike. It's all like the theme song from Weeds, little boxes, little boxes. And we have this homeowner who's not a happy camper. He puts on this like whirligig on his roof to annoy the neighbors, and his wife told him, "Oh, you can't do that. We'll be in so much trouble." He's in a lot of trouble. A monster breaks into his house and kills them both. So then we get Mulder and Scully going undercover to investigate the disappearance of several residents as the Petries, Rob and Laura Petrie. And this is really where the humor of the episode comes from, them playing off on each other, pretending to be a married couple. Mulder loves it. Mulder absolutely loves it. Scully doesn't hate it, but she's amused in a kind of annoyed way. And she does actually make a joke like, next time I get to change the names, okay? So the more they're there, oh yeah, there's another great moment where she calls him Mulder and he's like, the name is Rob. But Mulder eventually develops this theory as they're like bombarded with all these rules that these neighbors are going missing because they're not complying to the rules. So Mulder, this is another funny aspect of the episode, the way that Mulder tries to prove that theory. just by aggravating people. He gets a basketball hoop. He puts up a pink flamingo in front. Like, how much more tacky can you be? He attempts to put in a reflecting pool. Just all of these little things to prove his theory. And of course, it does bring out the hate. But we find out that there's more than just the monster to contend with. The monster is actually there on purpose. It's a supernatural monster, but like many of the monsters in the X Files, it has been conjured.
Yes.
And yes, in this case, I believe the monster is like a spirit from Tibetan folklore. But yeah, the bits of Mulder and Scully playing off being married to each other, the overall theme of the sterility in these communities, and Mulder just being a dick to the neighborhood, not just through not just through non-compliance, but just some of the things he says. There's a line in there about dolphin-safe tuna, and Mulder says, "Yeah, you gotta love those dolphins, although they're pretty tasty too." And the neighbors are just absolutely horrified. And then he's got to laugh to break the tension. So yeah, a lot of works on so many levels. I would say that the monster was even a little scary. It was more comedy, not satire, but comedy, social commentary episode than horror. But it had a little horror too. I mean, no one wants to get eaten by a monster.
Yeah, no, I well, like I said, fan favorite this one, and mainly because it mixes a little bit of everything, and because the X Files has proven that it can be pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get episodes where it's all those things in one episode, which is kind of cool that they're able to balance all of that. Because there's so many good one-liners. Like I got a few here on the screen. You ready? Let's get it on, honey. Or
Yeah.
Mulder's pulls up to the screen when Scully's working. It's like, are you ready to make that honeymoon tape now? There's a whole lot of great one-liners, and Duchovny's so great at the deadpan comedy, and Scully plays a perfect straight man to him. Want to make that honeymoon video now, honey?
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, like Pete said, there's scary parts in it. You do think there's a monster, but then you realize at the end it's a tulpa, and it kind of connects a little bit to Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks talks a lot about tulpas in season 3, but it's called the Ubermensch. The Superman is the name of this creature. Um, but there are a few things here that I point out. One, yeah, we definitely got this Stepford Wives vibe here of those these planned homes, and that was so 1999, guys. I don't know how it was in Canada, Pete, but coming off the very prosperous, I guess you could call Clinton years, people were moving into what we would call the McMansions, and these
Yeah.
nice gated communities, before everything crashed.
Yeah.
That was America. That was the American dream, is to pretend or act as if you were upper class, but really you were just scraping by, paying, working 2 jobs to pay that mortgage off of that little McMansion. But you really had to show that appearance of something, and people were serious about it. Now, real life account, I remember my dad when he used to work in a little town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. Cute little town that was established way back when. I think it was named after the Queen of Haddon, or something, or like the Duchess of Haddon. But anyway, old town, and all these colonial style houses. And there was this one house that was painted purple. The famous
Yeah.
purple house of Haddonfield. And man, there were town meetings. There was protests about this house, and it was it was insane. I was like, why? I was too young to understand that there was It's supposed to be, we have codes here. Uh-oh, what did I do? Oh, this is what I meant to do. There it is. The Purple House of Haddonfield. John Aiken leaves an imprint that will be felt for years. And there's his purple little house. And it was just not allowed. So I didn't get this. And so this until a bit later. And then when I watched this episode when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I get it. They're doing a social commentary about just being stuck in these boxes, like Pete said.
Yeah,
Um,
it was
uh,
based on a semi-true story, though. The beginning, where not the beginning, but when Mulder and Scully first arrive, the first thing the neighbors do is like, "Oh, well, let's get all these things in before dark." And the
mhm.
writer of this episode, who's like a first-year writer, Daniel Arkin, he said that he moved into a community just like this in New York, and his moving truck was late, so he had to move in at night, and he was fined $100,000 for that.
Wow.
Yeah, he said that their community standards guidelines was like 300 pages long. I mean, he might have been exaggerating, but it wouldn't surprise me.
That is insane. The what was I gonna say here is the I'm looking here on the wiki and it says isn't this we just mentioned Kolchak, and it says this episode was inspired by an episode from there called The Spanish Moss Murders, where a
Ah,
mythological Louisiana Bayou creature is brought to actual life through a man's dreams. So there you go. Just saw that now. So, a lot of funny stuff here. Obviously, Mulder and Scully as a married couple is the highlight of the show, but I do love the homeowners, and it's almost like we lost the real syndicate. So, this is now the syndicate, the homeowner edition.
yeah.
They're sitting in these dark rooms deciding who's going to die, who's not going to die. Um,
They
and
also kind
again,
of reminded me of the Satan worshiping teachers in one of
oh,
the
that
early
too.
seasons,
Hmm.
or the cannibals.
Yes, that too. They gotta have their little meetings. Again, pushing the whole relationship motif throughout this season. And poor Scully, man, she can't catch a break. She got stuck in a closet for all the good stuff. It was for me. I laughed out loud there. I was like, "That's too much. Come on, we get it. She can't see it all yet, but she's seen enough where Scully could have witnessed a little monster action." But the negative mark for me is just the end of the episode, because when it gets away from all the great stuff, which was the characterizations and all of that, the monster's kind of weak. It was kind of rehashed. We kind of seen Earth monsters before, whatever he looked like, the swamp thing ish monsters, and it was pretty clear from the start who the quote unquote killer really was. So that's the only reason I kind of knocked the episode down a little bit. I gave it a 3.5, but a classic nonetheless. It's a 3.5 classic. So let's move ahead now to an episode that I didn't really care for that much. And
Yeah.
have the X Files ever had luck with a good werewolf episode? I don't know. I was hoping this would be
Oh,
the one.
the Indian one was okay.
Oh, the was it Transformations or something? The
I don't
one where
remember what.
Scully's in the house while being attacked by a werewolf and she still thinks it's the cougar.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, God. That was definitely early season Scully. It could have been the cougar. Well, did you see the size of these print marks or these scratch marks?
yeah.
Wow. Anyway, um, so Alpha premiered on March 28th, 1999 to 17.6 million viewers. So the X-Files keeping its ratings up post-movie. It's a Monster of the Week episode written by Jeffrey Bell, directed by Peter Marco, and it's got a 6.6 rating on IMDb. I don't blame that rating. I can definitely agree with it. Mulder and Scully investigate a series of attacks by canine that show signs of human intelligence. Now, I'm going to begin what turned me off in this episode, Pete, was right from the start, like the little teaser. Like, how stupid can you get? Like, you're transporting this creature, you see it's
Yeah.
got red eyes, and then you're like, let's fuck with it. Like, That's the
Yeah.
smartest. Come on. I mean, I get that it's a sci-fi, whatever, action trope that you do get reasonably intelligent people doing dumb things, looking at you, Prometheus, but it's done in a way that kind of works within the whole mood of the movie. But when you just go straight up stupid, like right from the start, come on. So that turned me off right away. And then Mulder and Scully go to investigate, and it ends up, and this is the part that I didn't get, Pete. They visit this girl, Karen Berquist, an expert on
Mhm.
canine behavior. But it seems like her and Mulder got something going, like through a pen pal program or something. I, I,
Yes.
they were trying to build up this thing as if Mulder, like she had a major crush on him, but maybe he was kind of into her too. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So it ends up, this it's not a werewolf. It's actually like a mythical wolf. Um, and it's got some scary parts. I mean, you're always going to get a little bit of scare factor when you get a scary dog beast and you get the red eyes. Red eyes are easy. That's very easy horror fodder. Difficult to not get that right. But the problem is just I didn't give a shit. Like I didn't care about any of these characters. I didn't care who lived, who died. Definitely didn't care about Karen. Uh, and it ends up that Karen wasn't she the one that was turning into this creature or something?
No,
Or was she
no, it was
after
the
him?
rare animal expert.
She's the rare animal expert, but what was the deal? Like, where was this dog coming from? Because I swear to you, uh,
No, the guy. It was so obvious. The rare animal expert. His name was Detweiler. Like fuck, they like talk about an obvious clue, a name that sounds like a lot like the name of a dangerous dog. He'd
yes,
been
Rottweiler,
he'd been
Rottweiler.
in China
Oh
looking for
yes,
this rare mythical Chinese dog that supposedly once existed but is now extinct.
yeah,
And yeah, he claims to have caught it, but what really happened was he got bit by it and
yeah.
turned into one himself. So he shipped himself back and then escaped.
Yeah, no, I remember. I remember this. Yeah, see, that's how little I cared about this, all these characters. So in a way, it is a werewolf episode, but just a werewolf that's actually turning into this rare wolf.
It's a
So
were dog episode.
yeah, rare dog episode. Rare dog. Say that three times fast. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Rare dog episode. Uh, anyway, um, at the end of it all. I said it's not a horrible episode. I mean, you can get through it, but I don't care about these dogs, man. I don't give a shit about these dogs. It's just a useless and forgettable episode. Nothing about it that is at all memorable. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I was really kind of down on this episode as well. First, we've kind of been down this territory before with killer animals and whatnot, so nothing new. But I what I actually really didn't like in this episode was Scully, because yeah, she has her moments of jealousy with Mulder, but here it felt like she was being unnecessarily bitchy.
Mm,
Like what are you wasting your time with this dog expert for? I mean, you have you have a crush on her, she's definitely got a crush on you. But the thing is, they are investigating a real crime, and she is kind of an expert in this area, so there's no reason for them not to be working with her. But she's just a bitch. She doesn't
yeah,
want to have anything to do with her, she wants to walk away from it. And to me, as much as we've seen Scully's jealousy in the past, to me, that doesn't seem like her as a character. She's a bitch when she feels like the person isn't contributing,
or
or they're,
yeah, qualified or something.
yeah, like she usually find. I mean, even with some of the other women, like the chick in the episode where the small town went crazy, and of course with Bambi, she still kind of accepted them. And even though they were way much more of a threat at nabbing Mulder than this blind chick is, she still kind of accepted that, okay, we're working on something together here. And here,
Mhm.
when they're working on something that for much of it doesn't even seem that supernatural, it's just like a straight up case of a missing dog. She's like, no, fuck her. Like, let's get out of here. She's using you, she's manipulating you. So that whole aspect to me was just really not Scully as a character. Um, as far as the whole dog thing goes, that I mean, they kind of tease that Berquist is the dog because she's a dog nut. But I mean, when the zoologist turns out to be named Detweiler, that was just like, okay, mystery solved. Too obvious. Um, the only thing I particularly liked about this is is when the Saint Bernard got shot in the vet's office. I thought that was actually pretty funny. It was humorous to me because you have the little boy there bringing his sick dog in, just wants his doggy to be better, and then the killer dog gets loose in the vet's office,
Mhm.
and the vet manages to lock himself in with it. So the cops arrive and fill the place full of lead, and they shoot this poor little boy, Saint Bernard. But they have to show you that, okay, it's okay, the dog lived. Turns out the reason why the dog lived is because the Saint Bernard was Detweiler, and he can actually turn into any kind of dog, which was kind of silly.
Oh, I didn't even pick that up. Look at some of these comments here. This episode is a joke, isn't it? I mean, from the really badly made monster right up to the moronic, emotionally insecure Karen, who couldn't command a dog pack if she tried.
Yeah,
Anyone who ever watched Cesar Milan will know exactly what I mean. She's hateful, resentful, antisocial, insipid, and withdrawn. So I really
yeah,
like that. Yeah, the Karen here made no sense. Worst episode ever.
yeah,
I have to admit, this episode left little sense about the dog creature, the doll. Was it some kind of werewolf? I watched this episode nearly 20 times. I still can't figure it out. One of the most stupid episodes in the world. I hate how it killed the dog without any reason. That's what I guess Pete was talking about.
yeah. See,
But
I hate people like Karen in general. Like people, I don't mind people who like their dogs and shit, but people who are just like so socially dysfunctional that they can't relate to people at all, and like they see dogs as these like magical creatures. Like and she does, man. She has like a religious fixation on dogs, and
that,
unfortunately, I've met people like that. And what they all have in common is they have no people skills.
exactly. And so maybe the X Files was like ahead of the curve here with the Karen thing because
Yeah.
now we get a lot of Karens that are very socially inept, calling the police on some black folks. Uh, and I did like this guy's comment here. I didn't quite understand this episode either. I think the more important storyline was Mulder and that creepy dog chick, but I didn't really get what was going
Yeah.
on there. So again, it doesn't make sense. Like Mulder's into hot bitches, man. Like that's his thing.
Yeah.
Uh, Way back from the British girl that came over to help him with the fire dude case. We got Diana Foley, who's good looking. We got Bambi. We got the blonde chick that Pete was talking about in the episode where everybody's, Boulder's got a type. He's into porn, guys,
Yeah.
and girls. So I'm like, what is going on with this relationship? And then, like Pete said, and I had completely forgotten about that, is like Scully's getting jealous over this bitch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it makes sense when she got jealous over the girl from Oxford in that early season episode, or Diane, even though Diana was a little bit more jealous versus, I don't know if I trust her, but okay, whatever. When Bambi, of course, she got on that plane quick when when she found out
Yeah.
about Bambi. Um, but it was a lot of weird stuff that seemed like it was half baked and um, could have been a good episode, man. I mean, could have been. Imagine after so many seasons after that. werewolf episode back then, which had really great transformation scene with with the makeup. Imagine what they could have done, 4 years down the line with all the neat tricks that they picked up in the makeup department. It would have been cool to see a straight up werewolf episode, but that's not what we got. We got Karen. That's what we got. We got the Karen episode. But anyway, let's move on, Peter, to the last episode of the evening. I'll share the screen in a second
Mm-hmm.
because I can't do two things at once here, apparently. But the next episode, or the last one we'll be reviewing tonight, is Trevor. A little Trevor.
Yeah.
Um, escaped convict Pinker Rawls with the mother of his son, June Gertwich. It premiered on April 11th, 1999 to 17.65 million viewers. Written by Jim Gutrich. I've never seen his name before. And Ken Harwell. I don't know how to pronounce that. Harwell? Hawryliw. Uh, Rating 7.5. And basic story here is Agents Mulder and Scully pursue an escaped convict in Mississippi who is capable of passing through solid matter, which is a slight spoiler there because you kind of figure that out only later, at will, and is desperate to meet his son for the first time. I think this is you, dude.
Yes, yes. And to be honest, it's weird that they give all that away because much of that really unfolds in the last like 40% of the episode.
Exactly.
There,
Major
there,
spoilers in the synopsis.
well, even in the title,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Trevor's the name of his son. So yeah, it starts at like a work farm, um, kind of like Cool Hand Luke type of shit.
Yeah.
And we have this inmate, Pinker, who's got a real attitude problem. He attacks another inmate with a hammer. So he gets stuck in the hole, just like the old school work farm movies, except there's a hurricane coming. And he's
Yes.
like, oh, boss, you can't put me in there. And they're like, well, tough shit. Should have thought about that before you took a hammer to another inmate. And the hurricane comes through, and the hole gets demolished. Pinker's gone, presumed dead. Except one of the warden actually turns up dead, pretty much ripped in half, and showing some pretty strange symptoms. So this is where Mulder and Scully get called in. Of course, Mulder is not willing to discount anything. They haven't found Pinker's body. So he concludes that it is a reasonable possibility that Pinker is still alive and may have done this. So they operate on this assumption. Meantime, the audience finds out Pinker is very much indeed alive. And yes, he has developed the ability to make himself intangible. And we follow his track. What he's looking for is his ex-girlfriend. And it is implied that what he is looking for is the money from his last score. He goes to visit his old partner, doesn't have the money, he kills him, doesn't give up the location of his girlfriend. They find the location of his girlfriend because Mulder and Scully show up they're just tracing, okay, where could this guy have gone? They find his ex-partner dead. They figure, okay, the ex-girlfriend's probably the next stop. Pinker doesn't know where this is, but he knows now because he's hiding in their trunk. So way to go, geniuses. So they take him right to her. And yes, this is when we find out that he is not after money at all. He is after the son he had with his ex, who is now living with her sister. And so this is basically what it comes down to. A side effect of Pinker being able to pass through solid objects, by the way, is it makes them really brittle. They break very easily. So it's a good way to kill somebody, but it affects a lot of other things as well. So yeah, that's basically what it's about. It's about a man looking for his son. And Rob Bowman had a really interesting take on this episode that I disagree with, but I mean, he was the director. He wasn't the writer, but this is what he has to say. He says, Pinker is a crazed killer, but not a monster. The real villain of the piece is Jude, an upwardly mobile woman who basically sold out her boyfriend, then gave up her son so she would be a more attractive single woman. I think that makes an interesting contrast to Pinker, a man who'd do anything to get out of prison and be with his son.
Hmm. That is an interesting take.
Yes, I don't necessarily agree. I think Pinker's a complete fucking psycho because
Mhm.
his desire to see his son is kind of, it's more a sense of ownership than it is a sense of paternal feeling. Like he shows up at his at the kid's aunt's place, starts terrorizing her. The kid's obviously terrified, abducts him basically against his will. So his feelings towards his kid are not really paternal. They're more like of a tribal ownership type to me. As far as my feelings on this episode, it's a meh. There's nothing particularly good or bad about it. It's interesting the way the story putters along, but it's basically just concepts. Okay, a story about a guy who can pass through solid objects. How does he get it? He gets hit by lightning. What's his motivation? He wants to see his son. But it's just these concepts kind of thrown together for what constitutes a filler episode, basically.
Mm. And it's around that time of the season where the fillers do pop in, so makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm with you. I mean, I liked it. I actually had zero memory of this episode, so it was almost like a first time watch for me. Um, and I mean, I did like some of the lines here, though. You know, Scully, should we arrest David Copperfield? Mulder, yes, we
Yeah.
should. Not for this. Or
Yeah.
another great one here is Scully. I don't know. You know, she's looking, inspecting the body. It's not a simple bisection. There's a considerable amount of abdomen missing. Blah blah blah. Maybe an industrial acid. And Mulder's like, there's no acid found in this office. And then Scully says, spontaneous human combustion. And Mulder's like, Scully?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
well, isn't
Dear
that what you're
diary.
this?
Yeah.
Scully's like, dear diary. Today my heart leapt when Agent Scully suggested spontaneous human combustion. And she tries to play it
Yeah.
off like, isn't that something you would have said? And then he just looks at her and is like, she's like, shut up, Mulder. But, you know, so
Yeah.
some good lines. Um, but yeah, like I said, kind of like almost felt like a first time watch. You know, you can walk through the objects and change composition, very X-Men-ish. And it does take you by surprise. You know, you don't know that it's going there. Oh, and I had set apart the. No, but I know her name here. Catherine Dance in this episode. She plays June, and
Ah,
she is our girl from the Shield, Danny Sofer. And who knows? No, who knows, Pete? Maybe in the future we can do a Shield rewatch. Although I just rewatched it maybe 2, 3 years ago, but I love the fucking Shield, man.
yeah, I watched it fairly recently as well.
So we may give it a few more years. But I would love to do a Shield rewatch.
Yeah,
Uh,
and actually, her sister was played by Tuesday Knight, who actually replaced Patricia Arquette in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. She played Patricia Arquette's character in Nightmare 4 after Patricia
okay.
Arquette became too big for B
Yeah, too
horror
big.
movies.
Cool, cool, cool. Um, and then let me see. Pinker reminds me of Dollar Store Sam Harris. There you go. Mulder faces off the paranormal dude alone again. But wait, will there be a Scully twist with Trevor? So that's the cool part because I was like, oh, not again. You know, Mulder's gonna see all the cool stuff and Scully's gonna be out. So I did think the ending, man, where Scully escapes with the little boy. but then it kind of bait and switch. You think it's going to be the usual. Mulder's going to get all the action, but Mulder's left out in the cold because Pinker, I guess his name is, he runs after Scully, and he finds her. He finds Scully hiding in the phone booth. And why is she hiding in the phone booth? Because they discovered that he can't pass through glass. That's like his weak spot. So
Yes,
that's why
but he
she's.
does try and run her down, I believe.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he runs. He just tries to break in there, and he
Yeah,
gets thrown down. That was awesome
yeah,
too. Really awesome death scene because his wife June, not his wife, sorry, his wife's sister June, she finds him and runs his ass over, and it's so cool because he passes her the front of the car. I think I like replayed that scene like about 5 times. It's so well
yeah, and
done.
he hits the glass.
And he hits the glass. Yeah, so he gets smashed in the
Yeah,
glass. And I put that on replay like 5, 6 times. Like, oh my God, that was so well filmed. So I say it's solid, but not amazing. The ending was sort of predictable. And I wish they had more Scully's reaction to dude passing through a car because she did see it. But they don't really give us, Scully just being wrong. Did we review the episode already where Mulder kind of calls her out on that? Where he's like, Scully, how many times have I been right about my theories? Have I done this? Because it does get frustrating at times, but I know there's a real good scene where Mulder just calls her out when she's just being the usual voice of the naysayer. And he's like, how many times
right.
have I been right? And have you been wrong? Even if you didn't see the monster, but we did come to a reasonable conclusion to our case based on my theories. So I wish they would have given that bit of closure as far as us seeing Scully deal with what she just saw. But I gave it a 3.5. I dug it. It was okay. So that brings us to the end, guys. Okay, like we said, just 5 episodes tonight. So what we're gonna do now is our usual watch and skip. And actually, Pete, before we do that though, there was uh, I just found this out just recently, like as we were doing the podcast. So let's give a little shout out to, well, not a shout out, but more of an in memoriam to Willie Garson, who was an X Files alum, okay, but he was more famous for Sex in the City and White Collar. He just died here. Um, just that I remember his face, and I cannot remember which episode of the X Files he was on, but I definitely know yeah, there you go. He was in the X Files, Boy Meets World. Do you remember what episode he was uh, on the
No,
X Files? His face is so familiar. Let me look this up real quick. William Garson, X Files. Which episode was he in? Oh, it's the Walk and the Goldberg variation. You remember any of these episodes?
no.
Oh, we're terrible. We're absolutely terrible. Um, wait, look at this. William Garson. We're gonna remember his uniform here. There he is. He played Henry Weems, and um, he was in the episode where the guy could astrally project. But Henry Weems, this is the episode. You know what it is? I don't think we reviewed it yet. I actually kind of dug. Oh, I'm remembering completely this episode, Pete. It's a really good one, where it's this guy that's super lucky. Remember, he gets thrown from the building
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
after the whatever. It's like
Yeah,
a poker
another one.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
that episode, the Goldberg. I don't think we reviewed it yet, but I really dug it. I
No, we
think
haven't.
it's either late season 6 or it's coming up or it's season 7. But I think it's
It's
late season 7.
it's late season 6. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about him at length. Now, I don't remember this face, but cool episode. I really dug that. So rest in peace, dude. He just died. He died young, 59, I believe, according to Variety.com here. 57.
Hmm.
And it doesn't say He died of pancreatic cancer. So very sad um, to see him go. Um, but yeah, guys, in memoriam. But now we're gonna do our watch and skip list, and let's go. The first episode we reviewed tonight was what? I forgot. Let me put up my. It's late here in São Paulo. I worked all day. What was the first episode, Pete? That we reviewed
Mala
today.
Agua, Aguamala.
Oh, Mala Agua. Okay, skip or watch for you.
Skip.
Yeah, I'm in opposition to Pete tonight. I say watch. I dug this one. Kind of cute episode. And Monday.
Watch.
Yeah, definitely watch for me. Cool concept. Well filmed. Arcadia.
Oh, definite watch. Probably the highlight of the batch we reviewed.
Yes, classic. X Files. Alpha with Carrie.
No.
Look at this picture, man, of Mulder all like totally in
That
love.
promo totally looks like something in a. I used to see in Blockbuster when I worked inventories. You go through the B horror movies section,
Mm-hmm.
you see shit like that.
The darker side of man's best friend. Anyway, yeah, it's a crappy
Yeah.
episode though. And then Trevor to close it out. Oh, it's a definite skip for me, by the way, with Alpha. In case
Yeah. Alpha's a skip, and I'd say skip Trevor as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pete with Skip. I mean, it's not terrible; it's watchable, but I think this is if you're like X Files fan, really, you might get something out of it. But just as a one-off, it'd be like this kind of shitty episode. So that's it, guys. Retro Review Season 6, episodes 13 through 17. Next week, we'll close out the season with 5 more episodes. It was a short season, Season 6. And then we'll jump into Season 7. So next week, we'll close out the season, review our top 8 of the season. So it's a big show next week. Hope to see you here. And until next time, I got nothing more to say. You got anything else to say, Pete?
No, just what you said. Next week we will be rounding up the season, so
All
be here
right.
for that.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.